The Texas Rangers are headed to the ALCS, and they've got some question marks on their roster. On today's show, we break down how far this Rangers team has come in such a short time and what they should do about Max Scherzer and Jon Gray. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Ranger fan since 2010, covering this team for 10 seasons, including all 5 as the founder and host of Locked On Rangers. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. You can follow my guest at OG Shill. Hit subscribe on YouTube. Where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below and watch every freaking day. Now, before we get into today's episode, this episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Now, joining me today is the OG Shill. I realized after the last time I had you on, the time before that I had you on, I think was like maybe mid-season or like preseason, and so we're going a little less time in between appearances. How are you doing today, Grant?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really well. Frankly,
yeah, this is the time for doing well.
Too.
I mean, my goodness, this freaking team. Let's just start there, because I mean, I was kind of feeling a little big picture because I went back and found the old tweet like I like to do every once in a while when Adolis Garcia does nice things of the Cardinals tweeting out that they traded him for cash considerations. Just say, oh, what a great tweet! And after last night, and after that game, and after like this season, these seasons, I mean, just think of how far they've come. Seriously, from that tweet in 2019, and also from when they designated him for assignment in 2021 to make space on the roster for, I believe it was Mike Foltynewicz at that point. Like, I honestly can't believe how much this has turned around so quickly.
It's crazy. It's very impressive. I had that exact thought. There's an account on Twitter that tweets out a random home run every hour.
Love that account.
And it tweeted out a Jonah Heim walk-off from 2021. I think it was yesterday. And I was looking at the celebration, and I was looking at Charlie Culberson and Brock Holt, Eli White, and I mean, the team was just awful. I mean, this sounds very disrespectful to those guys. I don't mean it to be, but the team was just awful. And watching that and then realizing what we have right now, it's so impressive in 2 years, and it's just crazy to think about. And some of these guys on the team are very young players, and they developed and they claimed Garcia, but for a lot of it, they went out and bought a good team. And you've seen so many teams try and do that over the years and not work. Diamondbacks when they got Greinke, the Mets. There's just a million examples of mid-market teams who try and do this. And it almost never works. And what you really have to give them credit for is they bought not just talent, but they bought such good culture guys. And that's the focus on that is part of what sets us apart from some of those other ones that have failed.
Yeah, and not just that, but they also like bought on like the right guys. Like they spent on the right guys, and so often we see these big money free agent signings go sideways. And for the most part, I mean, DeGrom has the potential to do that, but you knew that going in, and again, still worth the risk given the context of what was going. But like, they are nailing this Corey Seager signing. They absolutely nailed the Marcus Semien signing. And like, you look at the rest of this lineup, and it's all these marginal moves, these developmental wins of Nathaniel Lowe and Jonah Heim and Josh Young finally drafting in the first round well. Adolis Garcia, who you got for cash considerations. Mitch Garver, who you traded Ronnie Enriquez and IKF for. Like, are you kidding me? I cannot believe they pulled that one over the Twins at the time, and definitely now in hindsight.
Leody Taveras, developmental win. Evan
Mhm.
Carter, clear developmental win. And
Massive.
you talk about hitting on the right free agents. Can we give a quick shout out to Tim Heyer's son for spilling the beans on Trevor's story and costing the Rangers a surprise Story signing?
Oh my God. I'm so glad that happened. Like, I mean, what would they have done with Trevor's Story? Like, what would they have done? Like, where would he go? Like, they're having
Yeah,
worries about like fitting in Wyatt Langford, who I
right.
imagine as soon as like next year is going to be a better hitter than Trevor Story. Maybe that's just me being cocky, but like,
I mean, Story at this point, the Rangers either would have had to have moved on from Young, or move him to first, and move on from Lowe, or he'd be your left fielder, and you'd be wondering what the heck you do with him with Carter and Langford coming. So yeah, I mean, it, I forget. I remember like twice a year that Tim Heyer's son was the best breaking news reporter in baseball a couple off seasons ago. But seriously, shout out to that guy.
oh my God, shout out to Royce Lewis for a
Yes.
solo shot that
Uh-huh.
just put the Minnesota Twins up 1-0. Coming up later, we'll talk a little bit about who we would prefer in that series, where the Rangers match up with them. But still sticking on the big picture, I mean, like, and nailing, going and being this aggressive at not only the trade deadline, but also like on the just buying an entire rotation and then trading for 2 starters because they know nothing is guaranteed. Like, and without mortgaging the farm. Like there's so much discourse nonsense about Luis and Acuna is going to be a multi-time All-Star, or oh my gosh, Thomas Jase and TK Roby are going to be amazing. What's like I'm more worried about the TK Roby and Sajasi biting than Acuna. But like, I mean,
Same.
given where the Rangers are, I hope they turn out to be amazing. Like, I don't care at this point. I'm still probably never going to get over the Cole Reagan's what if, but that's more not about him. It's more about who they got in return. But still, like, and to turn this like fast turnaround, like there's so many things that have to go right, like that incremental, like those guys on the margins of Jonah
Mhm.
Heim for Elvis Andrews because you're going to pay more of his salary. The again, Adolis being right about Nathaniel Loa, we were both so sure was an incredibly boneheaded move. I was like, no, you have Ronald Guzman. Why do you need Nathaniel Loa? Well, happy to eat a lot of crow on that one.
Yeah. We hated that low deal.
We were so mad, dude. We were
Yeah,
so mad and
we're
so
like,
wrong.
Heriberto Hernandez hits the ball so hard. He's going to be the future. The Rays always win the trade. What are you doing? And then there he is hitting the home run in the ALDS to put the Rangers up 7-1 after he was on the team that just swept the Rays. And as live as Basabe, funnily enough.
Wow. Yeah, and not to mention the 15 pitch at bat. I mean, my God, what an at bat! And there's a lot of talk. Mitch Garver was saying after the game that you could tell that the starting pitcher was sweating and breathing hard by the time he got to the plate, and he's like, "Oh, I got you. You're on the ropes. You're done, dude. You're absolutely done." And he was. And this offense just absolutely feasting right now.
And you
I'm
know what about that says a lot about the culture of the clubhouse to me is how, to a man, everybody after that game went and credited Lowe for that 15 pitch at bat. And you
Yep.
have Lowe, I mean, him and Simi are the only two who aren't clicking on all cylinders right now in the lineup. And Lowe tends to get down on himself. So having everybody shout him out and give him credit for that kind of thing, to try and build him back up I think it says a lot. It's not something you're going to get in every clubhouse.
No, and also the character of this team, and like the thing that I think I've talked about so many times that makes this lineup special is like the absolute undying trust and belief in each other, which you see with their command of the strike zone. I think that really encourages it because it's not like, oh, I got to do this myself. It's only me. Like you have Corey Seager who walked a record 9 times in the ALDS, and he's not like the most patient. He's going to jump out of his shoes on the first pitch and usually have a lot of success there. And he's like, well, they don't want any part of me. So I guess Mitch has got my back. And I know if he doesn't, then Adolis has got it. And if he doesn't, then whoever's next in the lineup is going to do the job. And they've done that. And that has been so incredibly effective. It's effective in a short series. I mean, let alone like even if the Orioles did manage to like come back, like the Rangers made them use all of their pitchers in all of these. And like, I don't see them not doing that to other starters. Like
Mhm.
if it's the Astros or, I mean, they're probably not going to do it to Pablo Lopez or Justin Verlander, but everybody else on those two starting staffs, I feel pretty good about them being able to wear them down.
Yeah, especially the Astros one. The Twin staff, I mean, we'll get into a little bit later, but the Twin staff worries me a little bit more. They have more starting depth, and Joe Ryan having a good fastball might match up well with some of the Rangers hitters. Um, but especially the Astros, and maybe even Verlander, to be honest. I think they can get to a lot of the starting pitching.
We're going to talk about that and the Rangers getting some potential depth with Max Scherzer and Jon Gray. What should Rangers expect from them? And what is the best case scenario for their starting rotation look like in the ALCS, which the Rangers are playing in? By the way, we're going to get into all that and more in just a second. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Sleeper. The MLB playoffs are right here, which means the clock is ticking on your chance to win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is right now with studs like Acuna, Betts, Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia on there. So pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to a 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you could win big. Are you betting on Corey Seager to go absolutely nuclear in the ALCS because, maybe one of these teams is going to try and pitch to him? They might, and it might be a pretty darn good bet. And so go use your promo code locked on and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Shout out to the everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll have even more of an ALCS breakdown. Maybe we will know who the opponent is, but hopefully we won't at that point, which would mean that the Minnesota Twins go on and win this and push it to a game 5. But the Rangers are in the ALCS. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, Texas got some decent news recently. Yes, Grant.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that for me again? The Rangers are where?
The Rangers, the Texas Rangers, are playing in the ALCS, the American League Championship Series, and they have not lost a playoff game in the Bruce Bochy era. They are 5-0. In case people hadn't heard, that's some pretty good stuff.
How neat! How
Do you want
neat!
to try? Do you want to try
Okay.
saying it yourself to see if it feels more real when you say it?
The Texas Rangers are in the ALCS.
You nailed it.
Yeah,
Absolutely
there
nailed
we
it.
go. It sounds great. It feels great.
It feels so incredibly great. And the great news just keeps on coming. As of today, Max Scherzer and Jon Gray were both scheduled to throw a sim game today. Max Scherzer was scheduled for 4. I have not seen, as of this recording, it's 6:27. I have not seen any updates on how that went, but we're not really going to know much of anything until Thursday. So both those guys threw sim games today or will be throwing. I don't know if it's already happened. Probably has. It's 6:27. So I think they've both thrown at Globe Life Field. The only game that's being played at Globe Life Field today because the Rangers swept the 101 win Baltimore Orioles to head to the ALCS. But they have 2 starting pitchers who are on the three, but they're not getting one of them back. Jacob deGrom's not coming back unless we advance modern medical science 50 years in the next week, which would be super cool. That'd be nice, but I don't see that particularly happening. But Jon Gray and Max Scherzer could both be back for this series. Scherzer was scheduled to throw the sim game today, and he was dealing with the teres major injury, and Jon Gray, who suffered lower forearm tightness, he's not quite as sure that he's going to be a starter. Scherzer has assured everyone that he is going to be starting if he comes back. And I'm curious as to what you think the ideal, obviously, like both of them are healthy, but I'm not thinking we can bank on much from Jon Gray as a starter. Is that how you're feeling as well?
Yeah, it is, and it. I have questions in my mind about the best way to set them up. Right, so you're probably going to put them both as starters. Ask them to go in the bullpen and throw more often than once every 5 days for the first time ever while they're coming back off injuries. I think might be a little bit too much. But if you line them up for games 3 and 4, like you probably want to, you're not going to get linked from either of them. And games 3, 4, 5 are back-to-back-to-back days. So I worry about what that leaves you with in the bullpen for game 4, game 5, when you're hoping to get 4 out of Scherzer and 3 out of Gray, maybe. So I worry about how you set them up, but at the same time, I'd much rather have that worry than worrying about, oh gosh, who do we pitch because these guys are hurt. So it's exciting to have them back. You don't know exactly what they'll look like coming off the injuries without any rehab, but getting the sim games helps. Scherzer being just an absolute dog and competitor helps a lot, and then Gray has the capability, and you just kind of got to see what it looks like on the day.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. But if Jon Gray isn't ready, I think the Heaney Dunning combination, or do you just go Dunning and put Heaney as the piggyback guy with Scherzer? Because I think both these guys are going to need piggyback guys. Who would you like most? I mean, the Rangers have a few options in Bradford, in Martin Perez, in Dunning, or Heaney. Who do you think pairs well with those guys?
Whoever's left. I think you use whoever you need to in game 1 and game 2 and game 3, and then whoever's left for game 4 is who you start. I don't think they'll go this route, but I wouldn't hate to keep Dunning, Heaney, and Perez all more available out of the bullpen, just piggybacking Scherzer and Gray. And if it turns out that they need more than what they've had to really get back into it, and that they both are going to have a game where they struggle, you have it all in that one game. And it hurts you in 1 instead of 2. So I might consider that, knowing that Gray would have to come into a clean inning. So you might burn a reliever to get out of a dirty one to get Scherzer out. But that might be where I'd lean. I don't think that's where they're going to go.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And having all these guys that, I mean, didn't quite work out as starters down the stretch, but I mean, I just rattled off 4 guys that can all give you 2-3 innings pretty easily and have done so successfully in these playoffs. Well, Martin Perez, he hasn't pitched yet at all in this postseason, right? Yeah. So it's been since game 162 that Martin Perez has pitched. And when he did pitch, he was fantastic. He was honestly fantastic. And that's huge. I mean, that's honestly huge for all of those guys. And Martin Perez has been in a playoff game before. It's been a little while. And I don't remember particularly how he did in that playoff game. I don't think it was really well. I think he pitched in the Toronto series and got lit up. One of those two.
Okay.
But I mean, still, they're pros, and having that kind of depth is amazing. I mean, like, what are you hoping for? Like you said, 4 innings from Scherzer. Is that like what, 50 to 70 pitches, somewhere in that range?
Yeah, somewhere in there. I think if you're getting that, you're doing pretty well. You get everything you can from them, but you don't want to push them. Not so much for health risk, since you're in the ALCS. You want him for next year, but you're in the ALCS. You're going for a championship right now. But because he's going to hit a wall. He hasn't built all the way back up yet. There's going to be a wall he's going to hit, and he's going to lose effectiveness. So for that reason, you want to be a little bit conservative in how far you push him, because you want that wall to be hit as he recovers, or maybe he goes to the bullpen to get more work to continue stretching out, rather than fastball down the middle of the plate to Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah, well, hopefully he's not facing Yordan Alvarez, and we'll get into that in just a second. Who we would rather the Rangers face in the ALCS, how they match up, and a little bit more about Texas Rangers being in the ALCS. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Modern medical care and treatment are important, but our global supply chains are fragile. Things like pandemics, natural disasters, and foreign travel may cut you off from the treatment that you need. Jase Medical is your solution. Just fill out their online form, and one of Jase Medical's board-certified physicians will review it to determine whether medications are safe and appropriate. Then Jase will send your prescriptions to their partner pharmacies, where your order will be filled and mailed directly to your home. You can also send your physician a message for answers to treatment-related questions at any time. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase case. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Now, the Texas Rangers are in the ALCS and will face off against either the Twins or the Astros. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on Sirius XM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, before we get into who we'd rather face, I just want to touch on this note from the broadcast that I think is updated with the most recent stats. But Bruce Bochy has won 13 of his last 14 postseason series, and he is now 15-5 in potential clinching games. That's bonkers. Like, that's wizard magic. That's some higher power. Bruce Bochy is that higher power, I think, because oh my god.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is that's pretty nutty. And he hasn't had the best teams in a lot of those series.
No, the only one that he lost was the 2016 NLC. I believe it was the NLCS, maybe it was the DS to the Cubs, and a terrible bullpen that he could not save, and a Cubs team that was really darn good and won the whole thing. And there's just only so much he could do at that point. But I mean, my God, the guy is just a rock, and he might end up being the biggest free agent signing that the Rangers did in the last couple of years, which is nuts. But the Rangers are in the ALCS. They will face off against, for the 18 billionth time, the Astros or the Twins. Just on first glance, reaction, who would you rather have, the Twins or the Astros?
From a baseball perspective, I could go either way. From a baseball perspective, I'd probably rather have the Astros because I really think that the Rangers could get to their pitching staff. I think their rotation has a lot of very beatable arms, and their bullpen's shown a little bit here and there signs of tiring out a little bit. And they have a deeper lineup than the Twins, but you still have some meat down there at 7, 8, 9, depending on the day. The Twins have a shorter lineup, but their pitching staff scares me a lot more. And I think that worries me more than bats. Now that our bats are rolling, I'd rather have arms that they can continue rolling against and hope that we can outscore a team than hope that we can win a bunch of 4-2, 4-3 games. But emotionally, I'd much rather play the Twins because I don't want to risk losing to the Astros in what is a very successful season.
Yeah, that would feel real bad. I'd very much rather the ALCS appearance streak for the Astros end this year, and not have to worry about that, because the Rangers, I really think they can beat this Astros team. I mean, they don't have the insane level of postseason experience that the Astros have, but I mean, there's like no team in baseball that does. But they've got a solid squad, and it feels like every time the Rangers faced off against the Astros, they were just happened to be in the middle of their like worst skid, and the Astros happened to be red hot. And even in some of those series, like that one down in Houston towards the end of the year with the iconic shush game, Shushgate as I'm calling it, like the Rangers were better than the Astros in that series. And when the Rangers were hot, they just didn't face the Astros until the end of the year, when the Rangers were without. I don't think Corey Seager played in the first 2 series that they played against the Astros. The first one in Houston back in the early season, that was like right after Corey Seager went on the IL. And then the last one in Houston was actually 2 different series. Three of the 4 series he has not played at all, because there was the one in early July. He played in that one finally and did well. Then there was the series right after the Dodgers in late July in Houston where he did not play. And actually, no, that's it. That was the only other one that he missed, because I feel like there's was like 7, but that was it. And then when the Rangers played the Twins, I don't think you can glean much of anything from that, because that was just all kinds of mess, the middle of the mess. Like I think of those 3 series that the Rangers lost, that Twins one was the most maddening, because I mean, Brewers was like they lost a 1-run game the first one, and then Brewers pitching things, and then the D-backs ones were like, that's really annoying, and losing in extra innings. But the Twins one, it was like, all right, so many of those were winnable, especially the 11-inning one on Sunday. It was like, okay. And then you go back home and you lose the first two to the Twins in that series to begin the month of September, and then you win on the Adolis walk-off homer that temporarily saved the vibes before the vibes went completely in the trash can the next series. And then Evan Carter comes up and, Little Savior does Little Savior.
Little Savior.
Yeah. Which, what an incredible nickname. But I think I prefer the Twins, just on every spectrum. Like they have a good lineup, a good top end, but we've seen them be very aggressive. They made Christian Javier look a lot better than I think he was on the day. They're taking they're expanding the zone a lot against him, and he was shaky. He was beatable. He walked a bunch of guys, hit some batters, and the fastball playing up was the scary part about Javier. I mean, we've seen what he does in the postseason, and like all this narrative of, oh, well, he took it to another level in the postseason. Like, no, the Twins hitters just expanded on him when they had him on the ropes. And I mean,
sorry to cut you off, but that plays much more into Montgomery's game than the Astros' more selective approach does.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And yeah, I would love that. And I think that Nathan Eovaldi would be amazing there. And if Scherzer's in and pitching, we saw him have a great start against the Twins, the one game that they won in that series, which was nice in Minnesota. But yeah, and their bullpen is scary and deep. And you just really hope you don't get to the ninth inning and you're losing, because Duran is terrifying. I have no idea what you do against him. The only person I trust to have like competitive at bats is Seager, and there's only so much even Corey Seager can do against a 98 mile an hour splinker. Like,
yeah,
jeez.
Yeah, you just hope he walks you is your best bet, to be honest. I mean, he is just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. But hey, the Rangers are going to the ALCS. Like, I still can't get over this. Like, how many things went right and how right they were and how like smug they were down the stretch. Like, I'm thinking about like just I think the most depressed I've been about Texas Rangers baseball in my lifetime of like obsession, which is since 2010. I think the most depressed I was like down the stretch in 2021, because they had just traded Joey Gallo. They, I mean, end up being, from an unbiased person might say it was a net positive for the Rangers. I mean, emotionally, also kind of hurts that Joey Gallo's not on this team to like be kicking butt and taking names like that. That would have been cool. But hey, like it's gotten to the point that like I can't even this year do my normal thing of like, well, what if the Rangers just like added Joey Gallo? Like I'm like there's no I can't believe there's no room on this team for Joey Gallo. Oh my god, I can't believe I just said that. It feels, I think I'm gonna vomit. But like, God, how dark it was back then. There's 76 games of Andy Ibanez that year. Like there was a lot of hope on Nick Solak. There was a lot of hope on maybe not a lot, but there was some hope on DJ Peters. Like,
oh
I
gosh.
mean,
Oh, that drove me nuts. The media loved DJ Peters while he was hitting 120.
Oh my god. I mean, Colby Howard got 17 starts that year. Mike Foltynewicz started 24 games. Jordan Lyles started 30. I mean, oh my god, he pitched 180 innings that year with an ERA over 5. I mean, God bless him, honestly doing the job, the dirty job. Like whatever Mike Rowe or whatever his name is, Dirty Jobs, like should have interviewed Jordan Lyles for what he did, what he's done like the last 3 years of like that's him. I mean, Kohei Arihara started 10 games for that team. It was bad, man. And I saw no hope for the future. And to go from that, like literally 2 years ago, to all the talk of, well, wait till we get to the offseason. We've got all these big free agents that we're going to sign. And then they freaking did it. And then talking about the 2020 draft. Oh, we nailed it. And they freaking did it. And then talking about bringing Bruce Bochy out of retirement, even after you sign those big stars and you have 94 losses. And they freaking did it. And they nailed the trade deadline too. Like, I mean, so many things had to go so right. And the plan was perfect. The execution has so far been perfect. Even when things have gone off the rails, their ability to pivot and handle that nonsense is just honestly almost beyond belief at this point. But I feel like talking about the 2021 Texas Rangers segues us perfectly into our random Ranger talk. If you don't know what the random Ranger is, Grant and I, every time I have him on, we will choose a Ranger at random from just the most random Ranger that we can find. And this one is from the 2021 Texas Rangers, a guy who played 43 games, 166 plate appearances, a middle infielder who did play briefly for the Dodgers this year, 14 games. But had a slash line of 217, 315, slug 252,
Yanni
11 stolen.
Hernandez.
Yanni Hernandez. That is my random Ranger. Also, was going to go Yohel Pozo, but I thought he was too good with his 690 OPS. Grant,
Yoel Pozo played in the big leagues for the Rangers.
he played 21 games. And
Curtis Terry also on that team. I mean, they are going to be some good random Rangers from that year.
Yohel Pozo had a big league home run, and no one can take that away from him. And I love that for him.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm bracing myself.
I want you to picture it's 2015. It's April 2015 to be exact.
Okay.
At least for me, I personally am going to college at North Texas, and I have a Wednesday afternoon off for a getaway game. And I go to the old ball yard, the Temple, and I go to see a Rangers game. They're 4-5. They're playing against the 3-5 Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. You're there. You're in my shoes. You get the blessing of seeing a scoreless ninth inning thrown by Stolmy Pimentel. You get the blessing of seeing 2 2/3 scoreless by Logan Verrett.
Oh my God.
You get maybe not blessing, but you get to see Anthony Bass go out there for 3 2/3 and give up 4 runs. Adam Rosales is bouncing around the corners of the infield.
Yes, he is.
Carlos Peguero put up a nice 0 for 1. Most importantly, it's a Corpy day.
Oh, Corpy Day. Oh my God.
Now, unfortunately, this pitcher in my random Ranger for the day, who I will never forgive for this game, gave up a 6 spot in the second inning. He was a Ranger both in 2015 and 2016, during which time he put up a 9.47 ERA in 19 innings and walked more than he struck out, which he also did in his 39 1/3 innings in 2014 with Boston, and just barely avoided in his 27 2/3 innings the year after, or also in 2016 with the Chicago White Sox. Who is this pitcher?
Oh, I know. It's Anthony Renato.
It is indeed Anthony Renato.
God. Jake Smolinski hitting in the 5-hole that game. Oh my God.
There are some names in this game. Corpy Day.
Adam Rosales played first base. You had Adam Rosales as your first baseman. You deserve to lose by a lot.
Delano DeShields went 0 for 5.
But he hit a homer. He hit a first baseman Adam Rosales sprint around the bases for a homer. Oh my God. What a random Ranger. What a freaking team. What a long way to come. Grant, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy ALCS Texas Rangers baseball.